Hello, I'm John Marshall Roberts, author of The Voice Code and Igniting Inspiration. I'm an applied behavioral scientist who helps people activate the immortal badass within. Now today I want to spend a few moments talking about the topic of shame. That's right, the emotion of shame. Now I understand this isn't a really fun sounding topic on the surface, but what I'd like to do is challenge you to rethink what shame really is. Now, truth be told, most of us are not even aware that we hold shame. We spend our lives focused externally, trying to achieve our goals, right? And when those goals get frustrated, sometimes then we start to look inward, and we often find ourselves angry, right? And then we look for someone to blame. And when that doesn't work, we eventually may feel like a failure, and then we start to recognize the presence of this terrible sense of worthlessness and shame at our core. And we recognize that that feeling, to some extent, is what we've been running from the whole time. Then, if we're lucky and we're unable to get the external situation handled, then we pass through and confront and dissolve that wall of worthlessness and shame, and we come out on the other side having reclaimed a sense of internal power, peace, and purposefulness, having released our attachment to whatever was troubling us outside. And what we find is then that the outer world, after these dark night of the soul moments, starts to bend and work with us to bring us often the very thing that was frustrated, that wasn't showing up for us before. This cycle of denying, seeking outside, and then feeling and confronting and dissolving deep fear and shame and worthlessness inside is the process of digesting our limitations as we evolve into becoming who it is that we came here to be. Everybody has this. At the core of everyone's ego structure is intense shame. And the only difference between people who live great lives and people who live awful lives is that the ones who live great lives are continually actively engaging and healing that shame, whereas the others are in denial. Active denial, actively denying looking at it. So what I'm actually doing here is trying to get you to really start to reclaim your power, but the path to power is through this kind of inquiry. So having said that, please find a trigger, a shame trigger in you using your imagination, something that stirs you up, but not so much that you're freaking out and you can't listen to me, okay? And if you don't have one yet, maybe you can pause and then come back when you do. Consider now that feeling of discomfort that you call shame. Maybe it's a prospect of humiliation, being embarrassed, being exposed, all right? And just for a minute, just remove any attachment to the trigger, whatever the story is that would trigger it, and consider the state itself as just a state, a feeling, all right? Now pay attention to it, and as you do, breathe and relax. And just allow that feeling, grant it the right to exist within you. Don't try to cover it up. Don't wallow or revel in it. Just take a few breaths and notice where it is in your body. Where is that shame living? Yeah? Now, sit with it and maybe relate to it as if it was a character, right? If it was a character, what kind of a character would your shame be? Yeah? Feel that character. And what you might do, if you want to pause this, is take a minute and interact with that character. Have a dialogue with it. Ask it what it wants from you, right? What is it here for? How did it get created, right? And what is its purpose for you? Does it have any catchphrases that it repeats over and over? I want you to do a little bit of an analysis on this shame. Get to know it without judgment. And if you do this, to where you can get to a point where you can relate to this character and not let it bully you around and not be ashamed of it, right? So not allowing yourself to be ashamed of the fact that you have shame. Then what will happen soon is that its pull over you will begin to diminish, and it will be through that focused engagement and a spirit of total self-acceptance. What you'll find is that the shame wall begins to dissolve. And you'll notice that within the heart of that energy configuration within you, at the core of it is a gift of power. Actually, it's a love. At the core of it, it's a love, something that you yearn deeply to give to the world. A gift that you're here to give, that you've been withholding, right? Without even knowing it, for maybe many years, since your youngest days, when you first felt embarrassed or ashamed because you didn't live up to the expectations of someone in your environment, probably your parents, right? So what I'm trying to point you to is a process here that you can use to befriend shame and begin to reframe shame as your portal to power. See, there's only two ways to live in the world, really. One is that we're trying to get from the world what it is that we feel we need in order to be safe, right? And in order to ultimately survive, to avoid death. The other way, and now that path is the one most people take, but it's the path that leads us like a dog on a greyhound track, forever chasing a bunny that isn't even real, that we'll never catch, and that isn't real if we ever were to catch it, right? The other way to live is the one that I'm trying to lead you down, and it's a lot more of a friendly path that gets way better over time, and that's the path of not trying to get from the world, not viewing the world as something to get from, but viewing ourselves as a source of supply, a gift to bring to the world. Now, to get from that sort of grasping, taking mindset into this generative source, being a source of supply, right? Outflow mindset requires, everybody would like to do that. Go find anybody who doesn't want to be the source of abundance and happiness and prosperity wherever they go, right? The problem is, there's only one way to get there. And you have to get there by anchoring down in the abyss of your own darkness to reclaim the gifts that you disowned, often long before even the formation of the identity that you now call yourself, the ego structure. Begin to reflect on this topic, on this shame. Find your shame, because within that shame is the gift that you're here to bring. Your calling is hidden in your darkest cave of shame. Understand, it's about your relationship to the world and what you're here to bring, right? And your shame is actually a cover for your love. And what you did is you decided to protect your love when it didn't feel safe in the world. You decided to protect it under this shame. And then you put a layer of anger and defense around it. And then you put a layer of sort of a nice person on top of that. And then you put a goal-directed adult on top of that. So you got all these layers going back, but the real gold is hidden underneath that shame. That's how you find your calling. That's how you find what you're here to do. And let me tell you, when you find out what you're here to do and you start doing it, the challenges are actually going to go up, not down. There is no happily ever after, in the sense that you're not going to ever have a future reality in which suffering doesn't exist. But the question is that suffering worth it? Is it worth the discomfort? And my own answer from my own story of finding and now fulfilling my life's work is that the only way that the suffering is worth it is when I'm suffering in the name of a worthy cause that has me doing the work I'm here to do, giving the gift I was born to give. And so today, as I end this short video, I'd ask you to please, going forward, notice when you feel fearful, worried, or controlling of the outer world as you go through your day, and then question that and go like, what might I be hiding through this fear of what might happen out there? And direct your attention gently. Make it okay. Just make it your mission to find shame and reward yourself if you can find it, right? Don't make it shameful. Make it a game. Make finding shame a playful game, right? And that way you can begin to maintain a real-time access to that hidden cave within you where your deepest gifts are waiting. Now, if you want a more thorough discussion of how to process deep emotions like shame and a deeper understanding of how they emerge, within your mind, within the psyche, I highly recommend that you read my book, The Voice Code, Master Your Inner Game. And if you have, a deep understanding intellectually of this stuff, but you want to find a way to really implement it in a consistent way, if you're ready to break through to like a whole new level of thriving, then look at the links below, follow it up, and reach out to me via email. We have some coaching some very powerful coaching processes and series that allow us to do a real thorough clearing and reclaiming of power from that inner cave. To be a truly open, transparent, translucent person who stands for others and who is willing to die in a spirit of service to that which matters is the path to a life without limits, lived fully in the present, which grows and expands and extends out to the world to leave a legacy worth remembering. And that's what I pray for you to have and what I'm here to help you achieve if you're interested in taking this one step at a time with me. Today, by simply observing and seeking to befriend your shame, knowing that that is where your deepest gifts are hidden. Thank you.